fact, I'll just play you the clip of him saying it in case you don't believe me, which I'm sure you do. But this is Al Gore, and this is what he thinks of our ability to have access to information here in the United States of America, obviously referring directly to companies like Twitter now that have opened up their algorithms slightly. I'm still banned. A lot of people I know are still banned because we don't bow down to Elon Musk and lick his boot and tell him how great he is for, worshiping Satan and wanting to enslave humanity in AI control systems that are all part of an electric matrix grid that he'll control with his Starlink satellite infrastructure. But hey, you know what? That's fine. At least there's some information getting out on those platforms. However, make sure you note, for the record, that what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter is a trap. And I've predicted it, and I'm predicting it here again. He's lulling you into a sense of complacency and false security so that he can exploit you at a later date. This is the mind of a ruthless multi-billionaire, the richest man in the world. If you think he's doing all of this because he loves you, or because he loves free speech, or because he's just an altruistic and good person, please wake up from your naivete and understand that you don't become the richest man in the world by being an altruistic do-gooder. You don't get allowed to be in that position. Okay, and that's what this is. These people are selected and hand-picked and placed. So everything he's doing, imagine if there was a pressure valve on America and the censorship regime understands that when they censor you, right, they can push you to a limit, and if they push you too far, then everything could fall apart. It may backfire. So they have people like Elon Musk step in, and they release the pressure valve a little bit. Oh, well, we're gonna be cool and say trendy memes, and we're gonna let you speak a little bit of truth on these platforms. That we're not gonna embrace the First Amendment at all, but we're definitely gonna open it up to the influencers who we bribe to say how great we are. In Elon Musk's case, that's exactly what this is. But that's why he monetized quote unquote influencers on Twitter. He's bribing them to say how great he is, and they're getting paid, so why would they look critically at Elon Musk? Why would they say, hey, why is Alex Jones still banned on Twitter if he's so free speech? Hey, why am I still banned? Why are so many other people still banned on Twitter if they're so free speech over there? Right? You got to ask yourself these serious questions, people. That they don't want you to ask those questions, though. They want you to think, oh, well, my favorite influencer, Charlie Kirk, said Elon Musk is cool, so he must be really a cool guy. No, I don't buy it for 1 second. I don't buy it for 1 minute. And here is Al Gore explaining what the elite truly think. Again, this is I think this is a Bloomberg event. I don't know if it's at the COP25 or 23, whatever it is, the global warming summit that they all have there, which used to be a pagan festival to worship Greta Thunberg as a living goddess, but now it's, Al Gore saying that your free speech is an AR-15 that needs to get banned. Listen to this here.
If you have social media that is dominated by algorithms that pull people down these rabbit holes that are a bit like pitcher plants, these algorithms, they are the digital equivalent of AR-15s. They ought to be banned. They really ought to be banned. It's an abuse of the public forum. But when people are pulled down these rabbit holes, you know what's at the bottom of the rabbit hole? That's where the echo chamber is. And if you spend too much time in the echo chamber, what's weaponized is another form of AI, not artificial intelligence, artificial insanity. I'm serious. I'm serious. QAnon is just the best known version of artificial insanity. And these devices are the enemies of self-government, and they're the enemies of democracy. We need reforms for both democracy and capitalism. Both sets of reforms are possible.
All right, so where do you even begin? QAnon is a form of artificial insanity. Well, let's break that term down. Artificial, meaning fake. Insanity, meaning insane. So it's not insane. So he's saying that it's sane. That's, first of all, I had to point out that fallacy in what he's saying, because he obviously isn't the brightest apple in the bunch or the sharpest tool in the shed. Saying that it's artificial insanity is essentially suggesting that it's not insane, that it's rational and sane and logical. I mean, right? Maybe I'm misunderstanding the obviously I understand the context of what he was trying to say. He was trying to say that it's crazy, it's lunacy, but he's too stupid to realize that artificial insanity is an insinuation that it is not insane by definition. But anyway, beyond that, he says that algorithms on social media are like AR-15s that need to be banned. So first of all, he's killing two birds with one stone. Give him credit there. He's both calling to ban AR-15s and ban your free speech in the same, phrase there. It's almost impressive. I was like, how could you fit banning of guns and speech into one phrase? And there he goes. He did it very well there. But he then references QAnon and says that at the end of the rabbit hole, it's an echo chamber. Now, Al Gore is one of many elites who have been named either directly or indirectly by this QAnon movement, which was essentially a group of... You guys want to know what QAnon was? This big bad boogeyman that they tell you about in the news, that's this evil, right-wing conspiracy. You know what QAnon was? QAnon was a bunch of what they call autistic, which is, it's a term, autist. It's not referencing people who have autism to... Well, it is to a degree. It's referencing people who have exceptional skills, which autistic people, just like everyone else, have different skills that they can go out in the world and use, right? In this case, there are groups of people online who have what they characterize, and this is not me saying it, it's just how the community characterizes it, as autistic qualities, which provide them with a capability to do, in some cases, high-level research, right? Now, it's not derisive against people with autism. It's actually kind of an embracing of, some special characteristics that come from certain people who have these abilities. Now, not all these people are necessarily autistic, but the point is that it's a community of individuals who went on message boards from about 2017 to 2020-ish and did high-level research based on prompts from an individual or a group of individuals who claim to have Q-level clearance information and direct ties to the Trump administration. Now, the information that was shared painted a picture that was very disturbing, to say the least. It painted a picture of blackmail, of corruption, of child sex trafficking, of waste, fraud, and abuse, of internal clandestine civil war in America. And it outlined a set of events and a set of facts by prompting a large community of followers with questions that would lead to research, which they refer to, as Al Gore said there, as going down the rabbit hole, a reference to the colloquial term that we all know from, what's the name of that movie? I can't even think of the name of the book now. Alice going down the wrong, Alice in Wonderland. And Alice in Wonderland is a term that's taken from, reference to how certain high-level intelligence officials refer to different aspects of intelligence gathering. And these are all very easily searchable, not anymore, because the big tech censors have censored it all. And I've done my fair share of deep research with the autists, perhaps being known popularly by some as being one of these autists. And you don't have to have autism to be an autist, to be clear. You just have to have a high level of capacity for deep research and an attention span slightly larger than a goldfish. And I mean that in reference to relativity, because most of the population don't pay attention more than 5 seconds to anything these days. But if that, and that's essentially what QAnon was. And to this day, then, because it hit so many nerves, because it exposed things like Jeffrey Epstein's client list and how the Obamas and the Clintons were running these secret operations against Trump through the FBI. Pretty much everything, by the way, that QAnon prompted its users to research via questions and ambiguous statements without directly naming names, or naming, in most cases, without directly naming names or giving specific details. Pretty much everything that were the audience, the autists, were prompted to research related to QAnon turned out to be true, by the way. Now, of course, there was an underlying theme that the military is in control, and that this was a military intelligence operation, and that there were aspects of deception within it because of a necessity to root out these bad actors within our government. And a lot of people still believe to this day that that operation is continuing as per a continuity of government strategy of warfare that is taking place, as I said, clandestinely, with a civil war that's happening beneath the surface here in America. And I'm actually going to have a good friend of mine who is very, I'll let him explain his background, but he's one of the Benghazi whistleblowers. His name is Nick No. He is military. He's a veteran who has a story that you're going to want to hear, but it talks directly about the continuity of government, talks about how we got to where we are here today, and all of these things are not hard to research or find. So look, when we come back, I'm going to tell you what this nuclear 9/11 is going to look like. I know I've been promising it. You're going to get it. But that's what they don't want you to hear. They don't want you to hear the truth about QAnon. They want you to just hear it as a pejorative, just like conspiracy theorists. You're supposed to use those interchangeably. When you hear QAnon, just dismiss it as crazy. Don't look at the facts. Stay tuned. We'll be back. This is Craig James from Just Informed Talk Radio, and I want to take a second to tell you about my friends over at thefreedompeople.org. If you guys haven't tried them, you need to give them a call today. All you have to do is go to thefreedompeople.org and set up your call. And what can they help you do? Well, through legal and lawful processes, they'll help you reduce exposure to the tax man or other bureaucratic bodies. They can help you do things like set up express trusts, which help manage your business assets and affairs effectively and privately, while helping you gain greater control of you and your family's future. It can also help you do things like set up private membership associations, which help you restructure your business in a way that allows you to run it exactly how you want. If you believe your children should be able to receive their inheritance without paying an arm and a leg in taxes, and that taxes are unjust, the government ceases to represent the interests of its people, I want you to take a second today to go to freedompeople.org and schedule your call. Let them know I sent you, but more importantly, help make sure that your future is protected and that your business and your family are protected.
Sucker punch somebody on a sidewalk, carjacking old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool, act a fool if you like, cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough? Well, try that in a small town, see how far you make it down the road.
Welcome back, Just Form Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. And before we go further, I want to give a thanks and a shout out to one of the sponsors of the show. You know, it's the freedompeople.org, the freedompeople.org. If you guys haven't tried them out yet, please do me a favor. Just give them a call. All you got to do is go to the website, which is at freedompeople.org. Make sure you put the in the browser so you get to the right website, thefreedompeople.org. What can they help you do? Well, they can help you do things like set up an express trust or a private membership association. All of these things can help you legally and lawfully avoid exposure to the tax man and other bureaucratic bodies. That's their goal. That's what they do. And they are obviously there to help, but they're going to offer you a free 30-minute consultation. So you get this free phone call with them, and it costs you nothing except 30 minutes of your time, and you're going to get valuable information in return in exchange for it, where they're going to tell you exactly how they can help you and what they can do to give you a clear understanding of what you can do going into the future to protect yourself and your family. So I say all of this to say thanks to them for sponsoring the show, but more importantly, go to thefreedompeople.org. There's a button at the top of the screen that says schedule a call. Click it. There's a calendar. Pick a date. Pick a time. Have a conversation with them and tell them I sent you. Say, hey, I heard you over on Just Form Talk Radio. He asked me to give you a call and see what you guys are all about. They'll know who I am. They'll know what to do, and they'll walk you through how they can help you legally and lawfully reduce your exposure to the tax man. It's at least worth 30 minutes of your time to hear them out and get more information, because that will arm you to go out in the world and prepare yourself better for what's ahead. And at best case scenario, they're going to help you legally and lawfully protect yourself and avoid being exploited by a tyrannical, out-of-control regime government that really does want to specifically go after patriots who love this country, who love God, who don't want to participate in certain aspects. So, look, that's my, only thing. Just check them out. Give them a call. It's free. Say, hey, I heard you over on Just Form Talk Radio. They'll know exactly what that means. And thanks to them for sponsoring the show. Okay. The nuclear 9/11 is coming, apparently, according to Steve Quayle. And like I was saying before, this is the type of information they don't want you to have access to. But Steve Quayle's warned of an orchestrated nuclear event in the U.S. across major cities, which is obviously a part of a bigger plan to destabilize the country. The information is that there's going to be orchestrated nuclear events in cities in the U.S. that are going to destabilize us. There are 27 cities that are going to be set up for false flags, and those will be blamed on Hamas or Hezbollah, he told in a recent interview. He goes on to explain that this would be a coordinated mass domestic terror attack. He also continued that the responsible parties know nobody could stop them, saying, quote, I'm speaking specifically about a self-generated false flag series of events in the U.S. that will be simultaneously coordinated and will maximize the amount of destabilization. Quayle added that the attacks would be committed using low-yield neutron bombs that can be concealed with paraffin wax in this case. He pointed out that these neutron bombs can be purchased on the nuclear weapons black market established by the late Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan. Incidentally, Khan was the father of Pakistan's nuclear weapons development program. A potential suspect for these attacks would obviously be Iran, which has been working on a nuclear bomb for decades now. Iranian scientists also received training in nuclear physics in the U.S., of course, even before Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah, was overthrown from power in 1979. Moreover, Quayle highlighted the ease of acquiring certain nuclear components, such as fissionable material, tritium gas, and a trigger from third parties. But it gets worse, and I'll explain in a second, but this is the plan. If you guys think about it, just take a second and think about what happened on 9/11. Think about who was actually behind 9/11, but who they told us was behind 9/11 initially, and what that prompted us to do. And think about the idea that if they were willing, those who perpetrated 9/11, who we all know 9/11 was an inside job, if they were willing to sacrifice 3,000 plus men, women, and children that day to achieve a means to the end that they desired with the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the Patriot Act and the further destruction of the Constitution and American civil liberties in this country and around the world, to bring in a totalitarian global government, an authoritarian regime of censorship. What do you think they're willing to do now, is my question. What line will they not cross? And just like 9/11 was a series of coordinated attacks that they told us was orchestrated by a dialysis patient in a cave in Afghanistan, and just so happened to be the most highly complex and effective terrorist attack in the history of the world, the modern world. They want us to believe that that was all orchestrated by a man in a cave on a dialysis machine. And what Steve Quayle is saying, I believe, is not impossible. Yes, it is unlikely. But 9/11 was unlikely. COVID was unlikely. And again, these were all means to an end. And comparing it to where we were before 9/11 is actually fairly interesting too. We had an outgoing Democrat administration with an incoming Republican. And I would say that if you want my humble opinion, in order for this plan to go off, the plan would be, if the deep state is behind this, which who knows, take it with a grain of salt, do your own research, don't just believe me, but you would have Trump arrested, indicted, put in jail, DeSantis put in place. Within a few months of his administration, you have these attacks. DeSantis goes full Bush, pushes Patriot Act 2.0, pushes expansion of war in Israel, Ukraine, and Iran. And bada boom, bada bang, you have your Bush 2.0 administration coming in and perhaps nailing the final nail in the coffin of American liberty. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe I'm just in the rabbit hole, echo chamber, artificial insanity that Al Gore wants to have you believe that this is all a part of. But I doubt it. And when we come back, There's even more information about who will be behind this nuclear 9/11, according to Steve Quayle, which, again, take with a grain of salt. But you didn't think 9/11 was going to happen, and it did. You didn't think COVID was going to happen, and it did. And a lot of people were warning that it could happen. This is not far-fetched, folks. Stay tuned. You're listening to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. We'll be back after the break.
Lord, it's a damn shame what the world's gotten to. For people like me, people like you, wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men know the rich men, Lord knows they all just want to have total control. Want to know what you think, want to know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do.
Welcome back to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, and the call and text line is open as usual, 877-536-1360. Why don't you guys do me a favor, call or text, or as a matter of fact, just text the text line and let me know if you're getting this transmission. It's kind of like a mic check. I want to make sure you guys are picking this up. We've been working through some technical difficulties here that are kind of out of our control at the moment, and it's just something that I'm interested to know if parts of my broadcast are cutting out, because this is very important information, and I want to make sure that you guys have access to it and get it. So call or text. Primarily, you probably want to text 877-536-1360. Let me know if you're getting this, because what I've explained in the last segment is wildly important. Steve Quayle came out and explained in detail about how there's going to be a nuclear 9/11, that it's going to be a series of self-generated false flags that will be simultaneous and coordinated, and that will maximize the amount of destabilization that it can cause here. He pointed out that these will be committed using low-yield neutron bombs that can be concealed with paraffin wax. He also pointed out that these weapons are widely available on the nuclear weapons black market, which was established by the late Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan. And he also goes on to highlight how there is an ease for acquiring these weapons, which may be provided by countries like Iran and used as a component, like fissionable material, tritium gas, and a trigger from third parties. And he goes on to explain even further what obviously this would look like. And I talked about it before the break, but I'll reiterate it for those who I hope you're hearing this. But again, it's always interesting when you talk about certain subjects. I've had this happen throughout my career. I've been doing this for almost a decade. And I can tell you that it's interesting where I'll cover topics and subjects, and all of a sudden I have things break down. I have broadcasts get interrupted. I have technical glitches with my recording equipment or my sound equipment or my operating systems. And I'm not saying this to make it out like I'm paranoid, but if you don't think that there are people and powers that don't want this information getting out, you're only fooling yourself. To an audience who pays attention, high intelligence, and highly active, they don't want this, because there are people listening, trust you me, beyond just the good folks and the citizens here in Colorado, and I'll leave it at that. But that kind of takes us into our next point here that Steve Quayle makes, where he talks about 3-letter American agencies will orchestrate domestic terror attacks. Quayle goes on to talk about how a 3-letter U.S. government agency will orchestrate the attacks. There have been obvious cases where the Federal Bureau of Investigation has gone around recruiting and radicalizing Muslims in America for such attacks. And again, the only difference is that the attacks would be allowed to go live this time. You can go back and look at 9/11. You can look at the operations they ran that mimicked exactly what happened that day, military drills that were taking place that day that mimicked, I forget the name of the drill right now off the top of my head, but that mimicked exactly what happened in New York City on the very day that it happened. You can look at the collapse of World Trade Center Tower 7. You can go look at the anomalous things that happened that day, the stories that were whitewashed out of the media, the stories that were underreported, the structural engineers' study of the building and the mechanics of the idea that jet fuel mixed with an office fire could melt steel and collapse a building in free fall in perfect demolition fashion into its own footprint. You could look at a lot of different things with 9/11 and ask some serious questions that to this day have not been answered by the powers that be. But the point I'm trying to make here is that if Quayle is saying that the 3-letter agencies will be behind it, we have a history of understanding that these things happen for a reason. And we have texters texting in, and I appreciate it. You guys, thank you for texting in. Everybody's texting in. Hopefully we're back now. That was a very oddly placed testing of the emergency broadcast system. But again, do you see what I'm talking about? Okay? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, these things seem to happen, and it's no wonder to me, because that was a strange one, because A, that usually that happens at a different time, and B, that one was different than any other emergency broadcast test I've ever heard, because it didn't even have this is a test of the emergency broadcast system. So that's totally normal. Totally normal. It's par for the course for me, folks. I've been doing this for a long time. This is something that I've gotten used to, unfortunately. But we do have texters texting in from the 505 saying it seems to me the deep state has always has multiple vectors of attack, some more unlikely than others, but multiple nonetheless. They want us guessing as the enemy the deep state is, getting your feed over the internet. Well, God bless you, and I appreciate you listening over the internet. So another person texted in and said it's working online. God bless. That's our friend Rabbi Mark. We have Kathy saying it's UK Dark Trace Spies 2. Yep. Okay. And we also have somebody texted and said, only going to do that, sir, if you have silver $50 or prizes. All right. Well, I don't have any prizes, but I may be doing a little giveaway for Christmas coming up here to show a little appreciation for all you out there listening. So stay tuned for that. Not sure what day that's going to be. It's going to be closer to Christmas, probably the week before Christmas. We'll do like a week of giveaways here, show appreciation for all you listening. But hey, when we come back, we're going to keep going, and I'm going to tell you what Steve Quayle says about the 3-letter agency's involvement in this possible attack. Stay tuned.
Sometimes I feel the fear of uncertainty.
Welcome back, Just Form Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, and we're continuing on the nuclear 9/11 story that Steve Quayle came out recently and described in detail as being what's coming next for America. We also have texters. If you want to text, the text line is open. You can also call if you want to jump on. It's 877-536-1360 is the number. You can text that number or call it. And somebody was saying that they wanted some sort of prize or $50 for involving themselves with my request. And they said Jason and Brian used to do that on an afternoon show. And, I mean, I don't know what other people have done on this station before, but, you know, I'm just trying to make the show as good as I can. And I really do appreciate you guys. And I have a few things that I want to give back to y'all. Maybe you can text me ideas for what you want, okay? How about that? Text 877-536-1360. Text me ideas of what you want for, like, giveaways or prizes related to what we're seeing here or what we're going to have here. And somebody texted in some Bible verses here, Isaiah 41, 10 through 16, saying, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." I'll read this a little bit later. It's hard to read and do the show here at the same time, so I appreciate, though, that text for them chiming in there. They texted in and said, "Dear Craig, I believe the demonic Marxists are using these forced scare tactics to desensitize the American population. Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. Stay close to our Lord and Savior and hold fast. God bless you, Sandra." Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, here's the thing. I'm not afraid because I know God has got this under control. I'm just trying to help my fellow brothers and sisters by, A, telling them that Jesus Christ died on the cross for their sins so that they may find eternal salvation and that I can build my treasure in heaven so I can see all of you up there with me in that day that we meet again. And B, I want you guys to be informed so you can protect yourself, protect your family, and not fall for these tricks, these deceptions, these tactics. But here it is. According to Quayle, a 3-letter U.S. government agency will orchestrate these attacks. Now, we've talked about what this nuclear 9/11 is going to look like. A simultaneously coordinated series of false flag events using low-yield neutron bombs, which can be concealed in paraffin wax and are widely available on the nuclear weapons black market, and most likely using materials such as fissionable material, tritium gas, and a trigger from third parties. Quayle goes on to talk about how the FBI has been recruiting and radicalizing Muslims in the past for such attacks, and we've seen this in cases where the FBI will recruit, radicalize, and even go as far as to arm with a truck or van bomb a radical terrorist so that they can then arrest them with possession of those materials and charge them with terrorism. And the only difference that would be in this scenario is they do all of that and then they fail to stop them from executing their plan, or it's coordinated at a much higher level like what we saw with possibly what happened with 9/11. You know, you can believe what you want about 9/11, but the facts don't line up. When asked if former U.S. President Barack Obama was going to be involved in this scheme, Quayle responded in the affirmative, saying that White House senior advisor Valerie Jarrett flew to Iran along with tens of billions of dollars, and history is always seeming to repeat itself, especially with what's happening with Joe Biden and his release of another $10 billion meant for Tehran. Folks, That's it. That's the nuclear 9/11. You can believe it or not, take it with a grain of salt, put it in your back pocket. Don't say we didn't warn you. Stay tuned. You're listening to Just Informed Talk Radio. We'll be back after a quick commercial break. Welcome back to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, and this is hour 2 of the Just Informed Talk Radio show. And we talked a lot in the first hour about what may be coming with this nuclear 9/11 here in America. And really, one of the premises for it is that in order for that to take place, and for those of you just joining us, welcome. And I'll just recap quickly. We talked about predictions made by author and researcher Steve Quayle about a simultaneously coordinated series of false flags using low-yield neutron bombs that can be concealed in paraffin wax and created using black market nuclear materials such as fissionable material, tritium gas, and triggers, and that this will most likely be coordinated by 3-letter agencies. And we talked about the why this would be essentially the nuclear 9/11, because it would be affecting the same goals and ends, expanding the war theater in which we are in, giving a pretext for expansion of wars in Ukraine, Israel, and Iran, because, of course, this will be immediately framed as an Iranian terror attack. It will give a pretext for the further expansion of martial law, a military draft, a reduction of our liberties further, a Patriot Act 2.0, if you will. And how we're going to get there is because people are waking up to what's happening. For instance, as we have Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary General, coming out in a new interview warning that the Western alliance the Western alliance with Ukraine must brace for bad news because wars develop in phases. And what he essentially talks about is how the support for Ukraine is waning, and that one of the issues they need to address is the fragmentation of the European defense industry. Now, when we look at Ukraine, German officials have come out now and speculated that if Germany was forced to enter a major war, its troops would only last 2 days in battle due to severe shortages of defense-supplied ammunitions to Kiev. Now, that's a preview of what's to come in Europe, mind you. But I have this investigation I want to play a part of. This is Scott Ritter, who I'll let him explain his background, but he's a very highly credentialed investigator who did a deep dive into what he calls Agent Zelensky, referencing the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. And I want to play a part. This is part 1, and it's a little bit longer, but it's worth listening to, of his deep dive investigations, a multi-part investigation of who Zelensky actually is. And I'm going to play it here on my show because This is the kind of information that they don't want you to be exposed to when you think about the theater of war happening in Ukraine. This is why it's all falling apart, because people are wising up to this, the truth about what happened in Ukraine leading up to the installation of Zelensky and who he really is and who he really works for, who his masters are. Because that tells you a lot about a man, is who they serve. And this goes deeply into that. I'm going to play a part of this right here. Go ahead and listen. Title is Agent Zelensky.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Ritter. Allow me to introduce myself for those who don't know me. I'm a former United States Marine Corps intelligence officer. I participated in Operation Desert Storm and served as the Chief Weapons Inspector for the United Nations in Iraq. My main interests are international relations and armed conflicts in different parts of the world. I am convinced that we all should know a little more about a person who, to the applause of those I call the global elite, is ready to fight to the last Ukrainian, President Volodymyr Zelensky. Mr. President, there have been numerous publications about you, but everything seems to disappear from the web. Your image is carefully managed and not without reason. You immediately understood why I named my film Agent Zelensky, didn't you? Let's begin.
You have had many film roles. Which one is your favorite? I would say that Servant of the People is probably my favorite.
The year is 2015. It's the premiere of the first season of Servant of the People series. According to the credits, the producer was Volodymyr Zelensky. In reality, he wasn't producing it by himself. Instead, his promotion had begun. No wonder such a role became one of his favorites. Zelensky portrayed the character Vasily Goluborodko, a school history teacher who becomes the president of Ukraine.
I want to compare that situation to situation where, for example, you come into the plane, you board in, and you take in your seat, and now you see that man who look like a pilot, who dressed like a pilot, who speak like a pilot, greeting passengers, but who is not a pilot at all, who is an actor, who played a pilot in response for your life.
Before the presidential elections, no one had seen a single press conference from the showman. Only interviews and videos were broadcast. Well, you understand, it makes it possible to retake or rewrite a dumb answer. Almost all statements Zelensky made were on behalf of the cinematic president, Goluborodko.
To all the people who want to quarrel with us, to divide our country, to separate us by color, by language, and so on, to all of you, I can't speak for myself, as I am a person of culture. So let one of the characters familiar to everyone, Vasily Goluborodko, say it. And all the rest of you, villains, go to hell. In all this story, the Ukrainian population became the object of manipulation. The creation of the TV series Servant of the People, in which he was prepared for his role, marked the beginning of imposing an image on people that he could be a potential head of state. And after that, he ran for elections. It was an absolutely skillful manipulation.
Now watch the hands. The final third season of Servant of the People was released just 4 days before the first round of the presidential election. Vasily Goluborodko emerged victorious, became the head of the country, and transformed it into a powerful and prosperous nation. Damn. This is the best pre-election campaign in the history of mankind. And it worked. In real life, on the 21st of April, Volodymyr Zelensky defeated Petro Poroshenko with over 70%, 23% of the votes. Clearly, such a scenario was not created in Ukraine, nor by Ukraine. Here, our compatriots are ahead of the entire planet.
The role of Hollywood in Washington, D.C., it is, first of all, it's not the decision makers, but this is creators of idea, concepts. So if the idea flying well with the audience, you can repeat that idea in real life, in real politics, and it's gonna play. So this is similarity in that Servant of People TV series and a film of Chris Rock produced and directed Head of State, when it was a black president who come from a Democratic Party and served the people.
And if this works, why not replicate the scheme in a country close to Russia? And why not elect someone there based on the same principle?
So I'm going to stop it there because we're coming up on a break. But to recap, what Scott Ritter is explaining is that there was a precedent for this, a paradigm created in a movie made by Chris Rock in the United States called Head of State, where a black man becomes president as a part of a Democratic Party nomination, and it was all predictively programmed into the population via Hollywood, and that Hollywood just took that predictive programming paradigm or operation and then moved it to Ukraine with this Servant of the People show, which is how Zelensky became president. And when we come back, I'm going to share more of that documentary because there's even a lot more information about Zelensky that most people don't know and don't have access to the facts on. And we're going to talk about how they're doing it right now as we speak with Taylor Swift, believe it or not. Yeah, stay tuned. You're listening to Just Form Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. We'll be back after the break.
The problem, Brian, is this isn't real, okay? This is not a real love story.
You got to hold it in.
It's real, right? No.
I think it's real.
I do, too. You don't believe tight ends are
y'all
lovable.
think Cinderella was real, too, don't y'all?
No.
Yeah, you do.
Nobody can wear those shoes.
She deserves it, though, if you look at her work ethic and how generous she is to her staff.
Exactly, and she helped the economy of each city that she went to. There was, like, what was it called? The Swift bump?
Yeah, right?
The Taylor Swift economy bump?
Anytime she shows up, a town just there.
She's a big Biden fan, right? I saw a picture of her giving out cookies that said Biden on it. Yeah, he is, too.
Great people.
Right. Well, congratulations, Taylor.
Yes.
Right, not sure what you get.
We wish them all the best.
She gets a free subscription.
Welcome back to Just Form Talk Radio. I'm playing that clip. Of course, I'm your host, Craig James. I'm playing that clip because before the break, we were listening to Agent Zelensky, the documentary investigation by Scott Ritter, former military intelligence officer who did a deep dive into exposing how Zelensky became president. And it was based off of a predictive programming model that was created here in the United States with a film that was directed and starred in by Chris Rock, where he played a black man who became the president of the United States, which then was followed directly by Obama doing the exact same thing, except in Zelensky's case, what they did was they took the actor from the show, Vladimir Zelensky, who portrayed the president of Ukraine, and then had him run as the candidate for president of Ukraine in reality, and then he won in what can only be described as a landslide to oust the previous Petro Poroshenko, which was a part of a push to remove pro-Russian leadership from the office of the presidency. But in reality, it was part of a push to install puppets and actors who could be used and manipulated. And the same thing is happening right now with Taylor Swift. There is a Taylor Swift psyop happening here in the United States ahead of the 2024 election. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Taylor Swift from what I understand. First off, this is a woman who, you know, all the memes are the memes. You know, they have all the memes out there, you know, why would you trust Taylor Swift? And she has such a terrible, ability to select men. She's had so many boyfriends. She's essentially, you know, whatever. You know, the memes write themselves in that regard, which are jokes about her. But she's dangerous. She's very dangerous. And I believe she's also involved in witchcraft and demonic practices that you should be very careful with allowing your children to expose themselves to, or yourself for that matter. If you watch her concerts, the imagery is demonic, paganistic, witchcraft, symbolism inside of her music videos, the references in her songs that are made I mean, this is why I stopped listening to most music, and I actually do research on the musicians before I'll even listen to their songs and try to make careful selections as to who I listen to and who I don't. Now, I'm not going to say I'm 100% great at that, like, but I'll tell you this, I do my best in a lot of cases, and I don't, like on my radio, if it's not on 1360, which it usually is, 1360 AM, it's on Christian rock radio or something, because I don't want to listen to the bad stuff. But Taylor Swift has taken an entire generation of young women in this country and put them under what can only be described as a witch's spell, a trance, if you will. We talked about that with James Martinez, the media ecologist who I've had on the show before to talk about MK Ultra and its evolution and in the modern era, from conception to modern time. And he talked about how a lot of these systems are meant to induce trance-like states where people essentially float. Their mind is disarmed. Their critical thinking is disabled, and their self-protection, what they would do to protect themselves is disarmed in a way that they don't even understand. And I think Taylor Swift is the ultimate example of that. She's coming out now and saying how she is going to be supporting Joe Biden. Time magazine just named her the person of the year. Her boyfriend, who has, I mean, this couple is not genuine. This is all, if you understand how this works, I mean, these are very dark forces putting this together. Her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, famous tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, who's a big Democrat lover and pro-vax Pfizer shill, among many other things. And look, when you give somebody $100, $200, $300 million, and they're pretty much, relatively average IQ'd and completely disinterested in critical thought beyond, following the latest Instagram trend, by design, mind you, because their brains have been rotted by social media algorithms that are put together by individuals who want to exploit the masses. And they bribe and pay these people to basically live careless, aloof lifestyles. You mark my words, what she's doing is very dangerous. They're going to weaponize her. She's so popular across the country. I mean, she's like, she's America's Greta Thunberg at this point, times 10. Times 100, whatever multiplier you want to put with it. This woman is, and I don't care if her music's good or not. Go watch her music videos. Watch her, eating the apple with the snakes and using dark satanic imagery and making references to dark paganistic ritualism. And you tell me, oh yeah, that it's just a music video. No, it's not. No, it's not. Sorry. This is really dark stuff, and it's all being orchestrated, and she's being rolled out ahead of the 2024 election as either a Biden surrogate, or she'll be a Newsom surrogate, or she'll be an Obama surrogate, whoever the candidate is. She'll be their surrogate. She'll be their puppet. They've already named her Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Here's a video of Taylor Swift talking about why being anti-abortion goes against her Tennessee Christian values, even though she's a Northeasterner from Pennsylvania. You can't make this stuff up. Listen to this.
Really is a big deal to me. She votes against fair pay for women. She votes against the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, which is just basically protecting us from domestic abuse and stalking. She thinks that if you're a gay couple, or even if you look like a gay couple, you should be allowed to be kicked out of a restaurant. It's really basic human rights, and it's right and wrong at this point, and I can't see another commercial and see her disguising these policies behind the words Tennessee Christian values. Those aren't Tennessee Christian values. I live in Tennessee. I am Christian. That's not what we stand for.
Now, of course, you can read between the lines to understand the pretext there and the context for what she's referring to. Obviously, the subtext there is the abortion issue, the Roe v. Wade. This is all happening around that time when everybody was getting heated and political. Obviously, she's talking, I believe, about Senator Marsha Blackburn, if I'm not mistaken, the Tennessee senator. I don't know. But regardless, she's out here claiming to be a progenitor of Christian values. This is a woman who is essentially, for all intents and purposes, with all due respect, a whore. Okay? And I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but it's just an obvious and clear interpretation of her actions, sleeping around with one guy after another, writing songs about her sexual promiscuity, promoting gay and homosexual degeneracy with her, social media campaigns. This is what they talk about when you read the Bible and it says people who are liars and deceivers, those who claim to be outwardly one thing and inwardly are different. But except in this case, she's outwardly the same that she is inwardly. She's showing you who she is. Romans 1:16, Romans chapter 1, you can go read all the way to the end. Start at chapter on verse 16. It talks directly about these people, who they are and what they do and how they will be. It says here, although they knew full well God's just sentence that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but even applaud others who practice them. These people they're full of envy, murder, quarrels, deceit, malice, gossips. Does that sound familiar? Slanderers, God-haters, arrogant, proud, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, and unmerciful. Now, listen to me very closely here. What she is doing, pretending to be a Christian, putting this into the world and promoting, saying, standing up against the gay agenda is an anti-Christian. No. We want all of our brothers and sisters who have lost their way to find their way back to Christ. There's no hatred in my rhetoric here. You can hate the sin and not the sinner. And I make that distinguishment very clear, that distinguishing caveat very clear. But this is idolatry. She's been idolized by the youth. She's being weaponized by factions of darkness and evil. She's transically inducing a hypnotic state with her audience through her music. And she's doing this all, folks, under the guise of a poor, sweet, innocent little girl, which is exactly why she was selected, which is exactly why she is the... And I'm saying this, people go, oh, well, you just hate Taylor Swift. You must just hate her because this, that, or the other. No. I don't hate Taylor Swift. I pray for her just as much as I pray for anybody to find their way. Repent of your sins and find your way back to Christ. But I'm not going to sit here and just pretend that what she's doing is not what they did with Zelensky, is not what they did with Chris Rock, is not a part of the predictive programming MK Ultra psyop that they continually run time and time again to the assuming masses who are not paying attention, who are inundated or inculcated into apathy and disinterest in what's happening around them because they're forced to focus on living, what they can afford paycheck to paycheck, how they can get to their job next, how they can get their next meal, how they can support their family. Or they just don't care because they've been raised to not care by parents and generations through families that just don't care about this country or what happens to it because of whatever reason. And that's where I got there from the Zelensky investigation, is because what we are seeing right now is so dangerous. It's so dangerous. Taylor Swift is not what she seems, folks. Do not let them fool you. Do not think that it's harmless because you're just listening to a harmless song on the radio or you're letting your kids go. I mean, you have parents they're forking out mortgage payments to buy a ticket to see this woman sing on a stage. Usually from so far back and so far away, you can barely see her or hear her. And the whole point of this, mind you, is about mind control. It's about exploitation. It's about what it's always been about. And guess what? When we come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Taylor Swift's connection to George Soros, believe it or not, of all people, and how she may in fact be controlled by very dark forces. You're going to want to hear it and much more. You're tuning in to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. We'll be back after the break.
A brown-eyed girl. You, my brown-eyed girl.
Hi, this is Craig James from Just Informed Talk Radio, and I'm here to tell you about My Kind CBD products. I have been using these products myself, and I can tell you this is the highest quality CBD product I've ever used in my life. My Kind CBD products are 100% THC-free, locally sourced from Colorado hemp farmers, and they're organic. And if you want, you can give them a shot today by going to 1360khnc.com/shop. And when you do, make sure you try out everything from the sunscreen to the lotion to the salve to the retinol cream to the tinctures to the cocoa to the coffee to the tea, everything in between. And make sure you try out the pet products as well. They have pet shampoo and pet tincture. You're not going to be disappointed. These products are white labeled and sold in high-end stores and boutique salons for 2, 3, and 4 times the price you're going to be paying at 1360khnc.com/shop, straight from the manufacturer. So go there and buy your products today, and I know you're going to become a repeat customer just like me. Welcome back to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. Quick shout out and thank you to one of the sponsors of the show, My Kind CBD products. If you haven't tried them out, give them a shot today. All you got to do is go to 1360khnc.com/shop. Try all of the products. Somebody even texted in that they thought maybe I should give away some My Kind CBD products as a part of the giveaway I want to do before Christmas. That's a great idea. I might do that. I'll have a discussion and see what we can make happen there. But let me just say this quickly, okay? My Kind CBD products are the best products you're going to get, CBD or otherwise. Everything they have is high quality, painstakingly developed to be the highest quality, but you're going to get it at the best price possible. And when we're talking like, these are good prices for this high quality of product. So check it out today. They have everything. They have topicals like sunscreen, which I use pretty much all the time, and lotion, salve, creams. They have facial cleanser, etc. They also have tinctures and drinks, candies. They have coffee, cocoa, cider, and tea. They also have pet products, pet tincture, pet shampoo. Speaking of which, I need to get another bottle of the pet tincture pretty soon here. I'm pretty much out of it because I use it every day almost with my dog, who's been, unfortunately dealing with some illnesses lately, as is the way it happens. But look, the pet tincture has made a huge difference. It's such a blessing that it has been able to give my dog some relief and comfort through a time where he's dealing with a large tumor on his liver, and we're just not sure, which is sad, and I'm devastated, to be honest with you, because we've had him for almost 12 years, been my best friend, and you know how that is with your dog. It's a very special relationship, and I'll just say this: the products are amazing. Try them out. Go to 1360khnc.com/shop, and when you check out, there's a little comment box. If you could just type Just Informed Talk or Craig, that'll let them know I sent you, and you're going to get a great deal. And these are going to make great Christmas gifts as well. I mean, if you're doing some last-minute Christmas shopping and you want to get something, order it now, and give your family and friends things that are going to help them be healthy. Turn them onto these products, because once they try them just like you, they're going to see the quality, and then they're going to be repeat customers like me and you both hopefully are. So try them out today, 1360khnc.com/shop. Thanks to them for sponsoring the show. And continuing about Taylor Swift. Now, I didn't have a plan on going into this whole Taylor Swift rant. I don't have some grudge against this person, but I understand the danger she represents societally. Laura Loomer, who is a journalist and reporter, investigator, she's laid it out very succinctly in a post on Twitter, which I'm going to share with you now. And for context, understand that George Soros and now his son Alex Soros essentially own Taylor Swift because they purchased with a man named, I believe, Scooter Braun, the entirety almost of her catalog of music, which obviously is a way to control somebody when you control their music, just like they did with Michael Jackson and Sony. And then you saw his untimely death when he was about to repossess, the library of music which he had created. And that's what these labels do. These music labels come in, they make you sign these ridiculously unfair contracts, just like they do with social media influencers and content creators on YouTube. And then they own your content, they own your channel, and they own you. And then they put you in compromising positions, and they'll exploit you at will. And that's what's happened here, it seems, to Taylor Swift, which is not probably, she's probably a useful idiot enough where she voluntarily is supporting the Democrat stuff on her own. But her influence beyond politics is dangerous societally, mind you. The influencing of kids about the LGBTQ cultism, or influencing children to replicate the behavioral patterns which she exhibits in being, sexually promiscuous and living this lifestyle which is untenable for anybody to live without finding themselves eventually in a massive level of depression and destructive lifestyles. But beyond that, Laura Loomer writes, quote, "Has Taylor Swift made a deal with George Soros and Alex Soros to get the rights to her music back in exchange for getting Zoomers registered to vote Democrat against President Trump ahead of the 2024 presidential election? Gen Z plus Taylor Swift equal Gavin Newsom in the White House. The only way Gavin Newsom gets the White House is if people with influence start normalizing his radical policies, like vaccine mandates and late-term abortion. Gavin Newsom is 100% backed by George Soros, and he is the nephew of Nancy Pelosi. In his old age, George Soros has turned his political empire over to his son, Alex Soros. In 2024, Zoomers are officially set to replace Boomers as the largest voting demographic in America. Last week, Taylor Swift registered over 40,000 voters in a single Instagram post, and most of them were Zoomers. she has decided to engage in an anti-Trump tirade in which she is using her platform to make abortion and fear-mongering about divisiveness as the number one issue to get people registered to vote. She has more followers than President Trump on both X and Instagram, and now she's dating a pro athlete, Travis Kelce, who just signed a deal with Pfizer to push the COVID vaccines to millions of sports fans and Zoomers, even though data shows us that young people and athletes who take the vaccine are developing myocarditis and dropping dead from health issues like cardiac arrest. Kelce embraces anti-American values because he kneeled during the national anthem in 2017. Taylor Swift also just launched a world tour, and after she travels the world this year, she's coming back to the U.S. right before the U.S. elections for what looks like her version of an October surprise. She's spending 3 days in Miami, Florida in the last week of October 2024, where she will likely make a big push to get people to the polls. Florida is the largest swing state in the nation and also happens to be where Ron DeSantis signed a 6-week abortion ban. The Eras Global Tour that Taylor Swift is currently on is supposed to be a tour featuring all of her albums. However, she has lamented in the past that Alex Soros and George Soros bought the rights to her music and her first 6 albums when Scooter Braun sold it to a private equity firm tied to the Soros family for $300 million. Do you think that in their efforts to beat Donald Trump in 2024 and destroy America, that George Soros and Alex Soros would have made a deal with Taylor Swift to help give her back the rights to all of her albums as long as she helps get Democrats elected in 2024? $300 million isn't a lot of money when you realize that the 2020 presidential election cycle was the most expensive election in U.S. history with a price tag of $14.4 billion, according to Open Secrets. That is nearly double the cost of election season in 2016 when Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton. Were deals made between the Soros family and Taylor Swift in a presidential election year? And she actually provides receipts for everything that she talks about here. But I know that what she's talking about is true because I've been quietly watching this happen for a long time, and it has been a concern for myself and many others that what she's doing is going to be highly detrimental. I mean, you have to remember, as was pointed out in that post, Taylor Swift has more followers on Twitter and Instagram than Trump. She is one of the, if not the, at the moment, most popular person in the world. And again, this is a woman who promotes to young children sexual promiscuity, satanic, paganistic, occult ritualism. The themes of her songs are rooted in such. Again, just like Elon Musk, she's not some altruistic, do-good, she's just a poster child. She's like Greta Thunberg times 1,000, okay? The little blonde-haired, blue-eyed, innocent little girl, I can't do anything wrong. And behind closed doors, and even to most people's face, she's a cutthroat person. So I'm just putting it out there. We're exposing the truth, informing you. Stay tuned. You're listening to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. We'll be back.
You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
Welcome back to Just Informed Talk Radio. I'm your host, Greg James. And look, I'm just telling you the truth about who Taylor Swift really is, what she really represents, who she's going to be, what she's going to be. And you know what? I don't care about her army of Swifties, a bunch of lost generation youths and misguided adults who want to believe that their idolization of Taylor Swift is indicative of their virtue or whatever it is. The fact of the matter is the woman represents pure, unadulterated evil, a wolf in sheep's clothing if I've ever seen one. And the fact of the matter is, on top of that, these people are not grassroots support. These people are not supported through the grassroots. These people are created in a factory, metaphorically speaking. They're crafted with focus groups. Their entire image, personality, and style are carefully orchestrated and weaponized. But I'll bring on some callers. We have a caller now. This is Rico. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Craig, how are you?
I'm doing well. Go ahead and turn down your radio if you don't mind.
Yeah. I just wanted to chime in on Taylor Swift. You know, I have a daughter in her early 20s, and, you know, she's gaga all over the whole thing like all these other young people are. I think it's very dangerous. I don't know whether you've heard the rumors or not that she's a dude, but that's beside the point. But anyway, I used to be a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, and I'd travel all over the country to see the boss in concert, and I loved him until he got political and started pushing vaccines and Joe Biden and all this and that. I just think that it's so easy for these young people to just get these false idols and forget about Jesus, Craig.
Rico, I couldn't agree with you more. Even myself, through my high school and college phase, you know, I was into certain types of music and musicians who, now looking back, I realized not only were they not, good role models even remotely, but they were exploiting me and my friends because they understood, and and like I said, these people are manufactured. They're not real. They're synthetic. And the point I was making with Taylor Swift, and I think what you're saying with your experience with Bruce and what you're seeing with your daughter is that, you know, we have to lay out these facts. But even if we lay out all these facts, a lot of this is emotionally based. It's emotional psyop. You know, it's playing on the gullibility, naivety, and desire for people to fit in. Your daughter may be one of those people who, they like the music and they don't think that much of it. They don't think too deeply beyond, oh, well, I like the song, it sounds good, and she's a nice person who seems nice. But that's the wolf in sheep's clothing, Rico. You know what I'm saying?
I think so. And also, I wouldn't be surprised at all, Craig, if this so-called relationship between her and this Kelsey, the football player, is phony, is scripted. Like I said, he's bought out by Pfizer.
Rico, it's sponsored by Pfizer, for crying out loud. There's nothing real about these people, and that's the thing you have to remember is that, you know, everything they do is put through a focus group and is ran by publicists and public relations, officials who surround them. So you got to remember that everything we see is scripted, right? That's the rule of thumb with people like this, right, Rico? I think that's the thing we got to remind ourselves.
I hope she enjoys all that money she has, but I think she's got some bad juju coming her way.
You know, people may prosper and seem to succeed in this world, Rico, like we know, but ultimately it will all come to nothing in the end, because God eventually will win, regardless of what they think they win in this. They can build their treasure as high as a mountain in this life, Rico, like we know, but if they're not building that treasure in heaven, you know, you can't come out and tell me you're standing for Christian values and in the same breath say you're for the LGBTQ cult and you're for abortion and you're for all this demonic evil and you're using satanic imagery and you're promoting sexual promiscuity to children. It just doesn't work, okay? This is the false Christianity, the teachings that they're putting on our children, and they're selling this this just everything feels good all the time Christianity. That's not the Christianity that Christ promised in the Scripture. He promised to not bring unity, to bring division, and to turn families against one another because of his gospel, because he was speaking the truth, Rico, and that's what I believe.
And not only that, Craig, but at these concerts, I don't know what kind of pulsing or subliminal stuff is going on, but I've heard that she has like seances, like the satanic seance at her concert.
Yes,
so,
no, Rico, that is true, and it is what they do. It is what they are doing. There are artists out there who openly have satanic imagery and are doing portals to hell in their concerts and doing human sacrifices, and she may not be doing it more subtly. She may be doing it more with just undertones and references to ritual occultism, but it is the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, good points, Rico. I appreciate the call. Anything else, brother?
That's it. Have a great day, Craig. God bless.
All right, God bless. Well, thanks to Rico for chiming in on that. I mean, you couldn't hit the nail more on the head, though. And you may be one of those parents out there who's experiencing this with your child. I know a lot of people are. I know it's causing a lot of division in families. But remember, when we anchor ourselves in Scripture, Jesus wasn't this, peace-loving hippie who always just said everybody should feel good all the time and it's all about your relative truth to you. No, he said there is one truth. He said, I am the truth, the light. And he said the way to the Father is through him. And he said, in no uncertain terms, that he came to divide, not to unite, that he would turn families against one another because of his gospel. And there are those who will choose to believe, and there are those who will not. And he told his disciples, when he sent them out 2 by 2 to go out, that if they were not welcomed in a place, that they were meant to turn around and kick the dust off their sandals and move on. And in this regard, I think we can take lessons from the Scripture. I'm not saying that Jesus doesn't have room for these people to turn their lives over to him and to repent. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they're turning their back on him and they're walking away from him, and he's never going to stop going after them. But if they reject God and they live in an ungodly way and they present themselves in a way that's false and deceptive, they're the ones making their choice. We have to make a choice for ourselves. That's why we've been given the power of that freedom to choose. So stay tuned. We're going to do our scripture reading, and I hope you guys are ready. Stay tuned. You're listening to Just Form Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James. We'll be back after the break.
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
If you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far.
Don't worry, baby.
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry.
Welcome back to Just Form Talk Radio. I'm your host, Craig James, and somebody texted in. We have the text lines always open, 877-536-1360. They texted in, look at a picture of the former priestess of the Church of Satan, a woman by the name of Zena LeVay, and it looks a lot like Taylor Swift. Well, of course. I mean, look, I don't know that, I don't even think the timelines could align unless she is some sort of like vampiric witch, which who knows? I'm not going to get into all that stuff, but I will say that what she's doing is very deceptive and very malicious. And what do we do about it? Well, we do this. We go to Scripture. We look for discernment and wisdom from the Lord. And again, I don't line these up. I pick a chapter and I pick a book and we go right into it. We started a few weeks ago the book of Psalm. We're already at Psalm 11. And, of course, fittingly enough, this psalm is entitled Refuge in the Lord, another Davidic psalm. And that's what we must do. When we face this evil that surrounds us, this dark satanic force that is abundantly clear in this fallen world, don't look at it and be sad, frightened, or afraid. Remember, we have refuge in the Lord. He is with us. He's standing with you right now, wherever you're at, whether you're facing the darkness of this world in regard to the culture, or within your own family, or at your work, or at your school, or with your doctors at the hospital, and you're sick and you don't know what's going to happen next, or your family member is sick, or you're facing, you lost your job, or you're struggling financially right now, or you're struggling with your own faith, or you're struggling with addiction. Wherever you're at right now, I have good news. You can take refuge in the Lord. And I want to share these words about that, and I hope they speak to your heart. Psalm 11 says, I have taken refuge in the Lord. How can you say to me, escape to the mountain like a bird? For look, the wicked string the bow. They put the arrow on the bowstring to shoot from the shadows at the upright in heart. When the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. His eyes watch me. He examines everyone. The Lord examines the righteous and the wicked. He hates the lover of violence. He will rain burning coals and sulfur on the wicked. A scorching wind will be their portion. For the Lord is righteous. He loves righteous deeds. The upright will see his face. Do you see? What David was facing then is the same thing we are facing now. A fallen world, evil around us. No matter where we go, we cannot hide from the wicked. They're stringing their bows against us. They're shooting at us from the darkness. Those who are standing with upright hearts, who are upright in heart, it says. And then it says, when the foundations are destroyed, when it's all falling apart, what can we do? What can the righteous do? And he gives an answer. And the answer is trust that God is in control. The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven. He's watching us. He's examining the righteous and the wicked. He sees what's happening. He knows what's going on with all this evil that we talked about here today. God sees you and me just as clearly as he sees that. But guess what? God's judgment is coming and will come on those like burning coals raining down, or sulfur on the wicked, like scorching wind. That's what his judgment will bring to those who walk away and try to destroy him and try to destroy those who love him. Because this is the hope. The Lord is righteous and he loves righteous deeds. The upright will see his face. So my advice to you is, if you haven't accepted Jesus as your Savior, now is the chance to do it. Repent, say a prayer, open your heart, and let him in. And if you have accepted him and you're still facing these problems and you're still facing this evil, wicked world, take solace and know that the righteous are seen clearly by God. He sees what you're doing. Do the right thing when no one's watching. God will reward you. And he will bring down those who stand to harm you or take you down. So we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening. My name's Craig James. This is Just Informed Talk Radio. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.
Just